All right. So good morning once again, and thanks for joining today's section. Last week, we talked about some functions in the Power Apps, and today we'll continue from where we stopped. Today we'll be, excuse me. Today we'll be looking at the filter function. We're not able to do that last week because we're not able to add a data source to our application. Today we'll also be looking at the patch function. We'll be looking at 5thMay. We'll be looking at collections, and we'll be looking at how to share your application. So I would share my screen. Let me know when you can see my screen, please.
You can see it.
All right. So, like I said, today we'll be looking at the filter function, patch, collections, and we'll start from patch. Simply put, a patch is a function we write on a button so that when you click on that button, you'll be able to send some input, some data to your data source. With a patch, you can either create a new record or update a record that has already been created. I would quickly show us from, I don't know if I should start a new app. Okay, let's just start new app. Power apps, sorry, make.powerapps.com. So I'll wait for that to load. Let's see which one loads first. Okay, so I'll just open one application. Is basically blank. As is the app we'll be using for demo. Just close this. So the way we are going to explain patch is, I have, so right now on this app, I've connected some data sources. I connected the travel request, bio data, and shoe colors. But right now, I'm going to use the shoe colors to show us what we can do with a patch. So this data source shoe colors is just a list that has the total number of colors of shoes I have. That's an assumption though. So I would insert a gallery to show us the, a second please. Okay, yeah. So I said I was going to insert a gallery. Just come here to, okay, there's vertical gallery. And the gallery will be connected to my shoe colors. So yes, and I'm just going to change it to this. So right now, this is the number of shoes I have in my data source and their colors. So I might want to add more items to this data source. I added this gallery so that we'll be able to see when an item is added, what it feels like and what it looks like. So if I want to add a new item to the data source, just insert a button somewhere here. Insert a text input somewhere here. So I'll clear the default. Just show colors and yes. So on this button, let me increase this so that we'll be able to see it clearly. So on the unselect of this button, let's change the text to patch new records or new items. So on the unselect of that particular button, I would say patch. So the way you write the function for patch is patch the data source and what you want to patch. So the data source we want to patch it to shoe colors, comma. Next thing will be defaults. So default is, you use default when you want to patch a new record. Sorry. Defaults. I'll repeat myself to say that shoe colors again. And close. The next thing will be comma, a curly brace. So I like putting it in the next line. So it will be like this. What do you want to patch? So let me show you what the data source looks like. On this SharePoint list, I have an ID. That one is automatically generated. I have the title. Let's refresh this. Okay. So I created these items yesterday. I have an ID. I have the title, that's the shoe color. And that's all. These are also generated by SharePoint itself. The time I created the item, the time it was modified. So I want to update just the title field to say any input I type here, that's in this text input, because that's what I want to use to update the SharePoint list. I would say, so the text input control, the name is text input 1. I'll just say title text input 1 dot text. So everything that you type in text input 1 would be submitted when you click that button. So this last bracket to close it, and would just start right away. So for my shoe colors, I've added black, green. Notice that black was misspelled. I intentionally did that so that we would update, we'll use that to do as an example for updating a record. So let me add blue and patch the new item. You notice blue was added to the list. I can add another one to say yellow. Click on the button, patch the new item. Can add another one to say what other color. Let's say white. Patch the new item. So that's how patch works. And as you can see, it's that simple. Sometimes you don't need a form. You are building an application where there is no form, but there's no form rather. But you want to submit some items that the users input into a database. The patch function is always very, very handy. It is one of the functions you'll be using steadily. So the next thing we're going to look at now is to update an item that was previously created. I'll add a new button. I can edit this one, but I just want to add this new one to say update items. So this is kind of different from patching a new item, patching a new record, because you would have to tell your application the particular record you want to update. So you have to define the record you want to update. So on the select of this, what is going to happen? It's as simple as telling the button, oh, when I submit a particular record, update one of the record I've submitted before. And what you're going to do is you patch the data source. Our data source is shoe colors. Comma. So you say where our ID. So the record we want to patch is update is this one. That's the first one with the ID of 1, because that's the one that was misspelled. So say where our ID. So this ID here is the ID from the data source, where our ID equals 1, your curly brace. So what do you want to patch to that record that says ID equals 1? We want to say the title should be whatever that is typed into text inputs. Text inputs, let's do this way. Input 1 dot text input 1 dot text Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry for the break.
Yes.
Can anyone see my screen?
Not yet. You can't see your screen yet.
Can anyone see my screen now? Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see
Okay.
it.
So we're going to say sorry for the break. We're going to say, okay, patch a particular item to this shoe colors SharePoint list. But how is it going to know what item to patch? The first thing the app has to do is, or that button has to do is, go check go check SharePoint list shoe colors to look for an item that the ID is 1. I don't know if you understand. Fine, we want you to patch to update this particular item. Let me just show us here. We want you to update this item and the ID for that item is 1. So how does the button know the particular item to update? The best way to do that is to say, okay, on select of this button, when the user select this button, check patch the record to the shoe colors. But what particular item are you updating on the shoe colors? First thing it has to do is look up. That's go check go check shoe colors. And the best way, the function to check shoe colors is look up. So say look up that SharePoint list, shoe colors. Look up shoe colors and return whatsoever item has ID 1. 2 items cannot have same ID. So where your ID equals 1. So we're telling the button to check where the ID is equals to 1. And now we write our patch. What we want it to patch. So we'll say patch to the title field. That's the title column, to say whatsoever is typed into the text input 1 dot text. That's when you tell it to. So close the patch. I don't know. I'll come over this again. You want to update a particular item. You have to tell your patch button the specific item you want it to update. And the best way to do that is to give it a condition. So yeah, this condition we are giving it is to say, go check the list, return the item with the ID 1. We can use another condition. We're going to try that out, but I just want us to see this. So now we're going to update that record. I'll just spell it correctly now and update item. Have you seen that black has updated to black, the correct spelling? So I can also say, oh, I don't have a black shoe anymore. I have a gray shoe. So I'm going to update that black to gray. And yes, that's updated. You can also say, oh, you can write another condition. Instead of using the ID, you can use, okay, where the title field is probably yellow, as where the title has yellow as equals to yellow. Let's put space. So because it is in text, you have to put it in quotes, yellow. So what this is going to do is, anything I type here, let's look for another color. Let's use ash. So notice that this item yellow has ID of 5. So we're going to update that item yellow to ash. I'll just click update and you see that it has updated. So and all this thing that happened here on the gallery, because this gallery is getting data from the SharePoint list, has also happened here. If you see, this was the date I created these items. This number 1 was black before, but I modified it a minute ago. So actions like this reflect back to the data source. So the patch function works clearly and works efficiently when you want to update records or create new records on the data source. The next thing we are going to be looking at today is collection. And collection is simply put a table, yes, an internal table in an application. So sometimes you don't want your app to just go to the data source every second or to the SharePoint list to, excuse me, every second to read through what you have there and send in more data. Most times, a collection is always handy because your data is already, at the start of the app, your data is already loaded in the application. It makes it run faster. So today we'll be looking at, like I said, a collection. And a collection is an internal table that serves as a data source in your app. Your app doesn't need to go to the SharePoint list at every moment in time to read or get some information. This collection usually make apps run fast. So today we'll be looking at the collect and we'll be looking at clear collect. So first of all, collect brings use collect to how will I say this in English right now? Okay, so we use collect to store some value into the table. It can be your SharePoint list, it can be new values you create. So you use it to store some data into the internal table. So at every time you collect, you're adding data to the table, to that particular collection table. Why clear collect? You use it when you want to clear previous data and add another one. We're going to see how it works. And yes, so I'll just add on the same screen, I'll add a button, put it somewhere here. And I'll add a label to show what it looks like. So to create this collection, on the select of this particular button, I would say collect, and the intelligence of Power Apps is always very good as long as your internet is working fine and not very slow. You get suggestions. You don't need to type all yourself. So collect the name of my collection. Let's say call shoes, and also the data source. So the data source is probably, this case, I want to use my SharePoint list. So I want all the items on the SharePoint list to be internal on the app, in the app rather. So my SharePoint list is shoe colors. I'm waiting for the intelligence. Okay, yes. So what I've done is every item on the data source, I've passed it into a collection. So this label that is here, I hope you can see it clearly. I would just make what's the text of the label to be the total number of items in that collection. So it will be count rows, count rows. A collection is called shoes. So it's going to go and count. Just check our data source first. We have 6 items. So so when I click on this button, what happens? It loads 6 items into that collection. That's for collect. When I click again, it's going to update to 12. Click again, 18. So this is what collect does. It adds new items to that particular table without removing the previous one. Sometimes this is not what you want to happen. This is not what you want to achieve on your application. So we're going to look at the clear collect function and you'll see the difference here. So right now, let's say this is let's add clear to this clear collect. So what is this? So here we have clear collect called shoes and our shoe colors. So we're going to say this label should show us, should count the rows, count rows, call shoes, and I'll play. So on the unselect of this button, it brings 6 items to that table, collection table. When you click on it again, it doesn't update it in the sense that it doesn't add new record. What it does is clear the previous record and add this one. Clear what we have there and add this one. That's why it is a clear collect. There's another function that's clear. As the name is, it clears what is in the data source. So we're going to edit that for you to see. Counters clear, sorry. Looks like we've deleted the text. So let's just add it. A label to show call shows. Looks like we've not defined it here. Show colors. Let me just write that again. Clear your name of collection, call shoes, and your data source. So because we've added the data source to our application, I don't know why it's showing this error. But what clear does is it clears whatsoever is in the data source, is in that collection table. So there's a way you can see your collections. Yeah. There's a way you can see your collections here. And because we've done so many alterations, you might not see it now, but I'll go back to see to show you call shows. So let's click on this button. There's that text. Add another text to show. because we're using one particular button and label to do the example, that's why it's showing us the stones. So yes, call shoes. Why? So there's this part where you can see your collection. Right now, we have a collection called shoes, but there's nothing inside. That's that about collections and patch. So I also said today would be looking at app sharing. But before we go to app sharing, last week we were not able to do the filter function because our application is excuse me. But I want to add more stuff to this gallery so we're able to see how the filter works. So I can add, let's say I have another blue shoe, but it's flat. I can patch the new item. I can add another shoe to just say it's blue again. Patch the new item. I can add another shoe to say it's green. So we have multiple items, and we'll see how filter works. So right now, the items on this gallery is all the items from shoe collection and shoe colors. But sometimes you want to filter it. So you can say filter shoe colors to say where title is equal to our title is equal to, let's say, blue. So it's going to return all the blue shoes that I have in that collection. As you can see, we have just two. I can also say filter this to say return the record or modified, or all the record. Let's use created first. All the things I've created today. Let me show you from data source. From data source, I created 6 items today. So I'll just say created is greater than today. Okay, it has finished loading. So I had to use greater than today because today returns 12 oh, 12 a.m. If you can see clearly, I don't know if you can from your screen, but today returns, if you look down, you see today, two brackets is equals 5, 8, 20, 21, 12 a.m. So today returns 12 a.m. And I created those items after 12 a.m. So created would be greater than today. And I'll just play for us to see. You see it returned 2, 4, 6, the 6 items I created today. I can also use modified greater than. That's the items I modified today. It will return more than 6 because on our SharePoint list, I created this yesterday and I modified it yesterday. But there's one I modified today, yes, this first item. So it will return 2, 4, 6. It returns 7 items. That's filter for you. And last week we were also not able to do first n. I said first n is a function that you use to limit the items you want to show in a gallery. So it will show the first items. First n, this is where we write it. First n, filter the gallery to say that, then comma. Let's say I just want to show 4 out of all these items. When I play it, you see, it shows 4 rather. I can also reduce or increase that. The items of my gallery, let's increase it to 5. When I play it, you see it has increased to 5. So we use first n to limit the number or define the number of items you want to show in a gallery. I think that's all. Okay, so we are left with app sharing. So after I've created my app and I'm done, you click on, let's go back, you click on file and save. So now I've saved my application. The next thing is to publish. If I don't publish it, those people that I share the app with will not see the published version. So I have to publish. What is wrong? So let me just show you. This is share here, in case you didn't see it the other time. So this is it has okay, it has brought out the model for publishing. I guess it was my network. So this is publish. I'll just click on publish. But somewhere here in the left hand pane, you'd see save as, share, collections, media. We've gone through that in one of our classes. Let's wait for this to load so that it show you those I can share the application with. So anyone you share the application with, it can be everybody in the organization, it can be some people in a specific department, it can be just one person. And you have two kind of rights to give them. So you can either say, don't know why this thing is taking time to load. You can either say they can edit the app or they can just view it. Please pardon my internet. While we're waiting to share the app, let's see. Does anyone have any question? Hello, can anyone hear me first of all?
Yes, I have a question.
All right, please go ahead.
For the on the app, you said when you're editing, when you're patching the edits, you have to put the ID, what you're looking for, like if it's yellow, if it's blue. So what happens if I have an app that maybe has a profile and I want a user to be able to edit any field?
Any field?
Yes, like I'm a user, I have my form whereby I have my email address, my name, and etc. So what happens if I want the user to be able to edit
Okay, so
any?
you can say, for example, like about data form, we allowed some users to submit some items. You can define a condition to say this a particular user that is signed in can only edit the item that was created by him or her. I don't know if you understand me. So if I submit, hello, are you there? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes.
If I submit a record and for example the biodata form and I made a mistake somewhere somehow and I want to edit it. So on your app you can define to say your users should edit only the items they created by themselves. So it will be something like look up that data source to return items. So if you remember last week we talked about the user function. So the user help us to know who is signed in or who is currently signed in an application. So you can say look up data source, the list that you want the person, the item you want the person to edit. would be something like, okay, let's say the person can be created by, yes, created by equals, or created by dot email equals user dot email. So items I created by myself can be the only items I can edit in that case. I don't know if you understand and if that answers the question. I don't know why this thing is taking time to load.
Yes.
I would have shown you what it looks like. But because created more than one item on that list, you would have seen what it looks like. But you can define any condition. It's not just about using ID. It's not, you're not restricted to just ID or title or anything. You can define different conditions. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I have another one.
All
So
right.
when
Right.
you are creating the button for inserting the data, the display mode was edit, right?
Yes.
Okay, why is it edit and not insert? Is it because you're editing the data source?
No. So a button display mode can be disabled or edit. So
Oh,
when a button display mode is disabled, user cannot do anything. The button will be grayed out. You can't click on it. Internet is really misbehaving. I would have showed you what it looks like. So when a button is disabled, you can't do anything with it.
mhm. So for
While when
this,
it, for you to take actions on Power Apps with a button, the button's display mode has to be edit.
okay. So for this button, there's no insert mode. It's just edit or disabled.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other question? Looks like we'll have to move the sharing of app to the next section. I don't know why internet is messing up for me. Let's see if it will still load. If not, we'll just inculcate it to one of our classes. So see how to share an application with people in the organization. Yeah, so with that, I think we have come to the end of today's section. Sorry for the breaks and for the internet issue rather. Thanks for joining today's section. We'll meet next class. And yeah, let me just give us some tips. So next class, our topic should be designing Power Apps. Some people feel Power Apps can be so ugly and not beautiful. It's a big lie. You can design your application to look beautiful and pleasing to the eye. You can implement UIs and UX that are wonderful for users and enjoyable by users. So next class we'll be looking at design in Power Apps, I think, and it's going to be a very fun class. I look forward to everyone of us joining, and I want to say have a great weekend. Bye everyone. Thanks for joining.